What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of At a Glance, this series in which I give you an appetizer, sample, or glimpse into a particular faction in 40k. And the goal behind it is to help you decide if you want to look further into the Force on your own, or maybe even start collecting that Force as well. So up on the chopping block this time by viewer request is going to be the Catachan Jungle Fighters. Now the Catachan Jungle Fighters are an Astra Militarum regimental force of numerous regiments, with nicknames as you tend to get with Astra Militarum regiments. That is from the Death World Catachan, which is probably the most infamous Death World in the Imperium that we know about. Is because this Death World wants to kill you dead with everything. The only thing that it doesn't have is a poisonous atmosphere, so you can actually live on it if you wanted to. But all of the creatures are carnivorous, and all of the plants are toxic. I'm not sure why all the plants are toxic if all the creatures are carnivorous, but anyways, the point is, it's gonna kill you dead if you don't pay attention, and it's just a chore to survive on the planet, which leads to a very gruff, rough, capable human settlement there. And this is where the Catachan Jungle Fighters are raised from. They're very capable as fighters go, and they're very loosely themed and inspired by, I guess you could say, the Vietnam era jungle fighting that the Green Berets were known for, or did, I should say, during the Vietnam War era. And more so thematically, visually inspired by the 80s action movies that were inspired by what I just said, the Vietnam era stuff. So, Rambo, even though it was Predator, is definitely inspiration there as well. And the things these 80s action movies had in common is overly muscled dudes blowing stuff up, right? So, that's what the theming is of the Catachans. If you look at their bits, for sure. There are female Catachans, and they're very muscular as well, but there's no bits for them from GW, no official bits for them. But I think there are some third-party stuff out there. Anyway, getting ahead of myself. My point is, the Catachans that's what they're inspired by, and this means that their specialty is jungle guerrilla fighting, traps, sniping, close quarters combat, and the like. They do what you would do in a jungle guerrilla fighter scenario. And they're really adept at it, fast maneuvering on foot and the like, because just to survive on their homeworld, they had to be good at all these things. So it makes them natural jungle fighters. It also means they can fight in particularly cramped environments like the underhive of a hive world. The underhive tends to be partially collapsed, abandoned areas of what the hive city was when it was growing tall. So the bottom parts become the kind of ghetto-y, overrun, under-tended, partially collapsed concrete jungle. And Catachans are particularly adept there as well. But classically, we always see them fighting amongst the thick jungle worlds against Xenos, like Tyranids and Orcs, kind of hunting, counter-hunting, and so forth. So that is what they're known for. They're very gruff individuals, very non-professional looking, very 80s action movie looking, which is a big contrast to what we typically see with the Astra Militarum in the form of the Cadians, even Armageddon Steel Legion, and the other forces we see are very regimented, right? They're very uniform looking, very professional, if you want to call it that looking, where the Catachans are not in the slightest. You can paint them up with facial hair if you wanted to. They have bandanas and headbands, and they have their fatigues on. They're not wearing their full gear because moving around in a thick, hot jungle environment is not going to be the best to wear your flak armor and your full kit, so they don't. They're overly muscled up as part of the 80s action movie way, and they're cool for it, right? They have a big fan base, a big fan following. They're very unique looking amongst the Astra Militarum bits. So if you like the idea of playing Astra Militarum, but you want something just unique and out there, the Catachans are going to be that for you right from GW. So there you go. They have a pretty good model range too. They have a command squad, a standard squad, a heavy weapon squad. They got snipers, special characters. You can use Ogryn with them. And being Astra Militarum, they do have tanks. They have Leman Russes. They have Sentinels. They have Chimeras. They have this stuff. They just they don't utilize it in the same quantities as other regiments might. And this is because it just might not be feasible in the environment they're in, but they will be there, and they do have them, they do make use of them. So just keep that in mind. You can have some Sentinels, or you can have a Leman Russ alongside your force. It's not going to be a bad thing to do. So With that said, we are looking at a color choice optional, or up to you, I should say, uh, force, as we do with most Astra Militarum. Now, looking at official representations of certain Catachan regiments, certain Imperial Guard regiments are going to be shown. And it's like, this is an example of a Catachan 2nd Regiment or 7th or whatever. In those cases, you have an idea. But you use that as inspiration if you just want to make up your own Catachan force for how you're going to do the fatigues, the camo fatigues, how you're going to do the undershirt, how you're going to do, if you're going to have any of that, the black marks underneath the eyes or on their arms and the like, just to kind of make it feel more football-y, action movie-y or whatever, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. I'm blanking on the actual term for that stuff, but you can do that as well. Some of the regiments have nicknames, so you can kind of use that as a basis for maybe the colors to choose from. Also, you can use your base, which how you're going to base these guys up, as another basis for what you're going to do for their fatigues. If you're going to do them in the underhive concrete jungle, then you probably don't want to give them olive drab coloring. You probably want to give them coloring, being Astra Militarum, they do utilize camouflage, so you can give them camouflage coloring similar to whatever the base is you're going for to make it fit thematically. Classically, it's jungle, however, so a lot of olive drab and browns and tans are going to work for you there. There's a lot of flesh tone, so you have to be comfortable or at least willing to learn and adapt and get better at painting flesh tone if you want to collect these guys, because there's a lot of flesh tone showing. But they are a cool Catachan, or a cool Astra Militarum force, the Catachan Jungle Fighters. They have a big fandom, and as a result, they got a lot of memes and a lot of mythos stuff that isn't lore. It's just the fandom overhyping them a bit. So you do have to remember, we are talking Astra Militarum, we are talking the standard humanity. So while yes, they do fight against orcs and tyrannies in these environments, they can do quite well. We're still talking about a human force. So if you keep that in your mind, especially if you start playing against things, I wouldn't bum rush Khorne Berserkers, for example. It's not going to be a fun time. You'll be okay if you just keep that in mind. I mean, the mythos is fun, the fandom is fun, but you also have to just keep yourself grounded a bit so you don't have disappointment in your unrealistic expectations, is all. But they're a cool force. Probably one of the more dependable Astra Militarum forces out there, albeit irregular in their structure and visuals and all that. So, the Astra Militarum, there we go, Codex is the codex to use for these guys. It becomes a case of taking their specific units or special characters and kind of building thematically towards them, and you should be just fine. So that's their codex for use. When it comes to collecting these guys up, it's their own kits. They have their own kits, like I mentioned. So that's definitely what you want to use. There's not a lot of stuff that works well with them because the bulky nature of these guys being all muscled out. They're muscled out, but they're not quite as big muscled out as orcs, so you couldn't even try and repurpose some orc bits for them. It would just look too weird, too alien. So really you just kind of stuck with what we got, which is a decent enough plastic range for them to have some fun with and just kit bash that way. But you can definitely find third-party products out there that just so happen to make jungle fighter, Rambo-themed stuff in our scale that could work for you, whether it's female bits to turn them into female jungle fighters, which exist, we see them in the art, or to just give you extra bits and stuff. It is out there, jungle fighting, Rambo style bits, so you just gotta do a little bit of digging if you want to get more options and just add more of a personalization to your force. It's up to you. It's not necessary, but it is out there. Remember, you do have vehicles. I recommend, if you're going to do vehicles, to give them a heavy camouflage job that's thematically alongside what your Catachans are going to be like. So again, if you're doing an urban Catachan in the Underhive, you don't want to give your tank a jungle camouflage and so forth. But aside from just being a good lesson in painting flesh tones, which, by the way, it's kind of like doing orcs, but where orcs are green-skinned and therefore fictional, and you can have fun and just have your own interpretation, and it won't be wrong necessarily. You're doing human flesh tone here. We know human flesh tone. Whether you're making it pale or dark, we know human flesh tone, so you got to kind of keep it in that realm. So it's a bit of an exercise, and the more you do it, the better you can get at it, and work your shades and your dry brushing and so forth, and your layering to have a really cool looking force. It would be also a good experiment for doing facial hair if you wanted to give them a gruff appearance that way, and so forth, and doing camouflage. It's also a really good a really good lesson or exercise, not just painting up camouflage fatigues, not just painting up flesh tone and facial hair, but also making a luscious death world jungly base if that's what you're going for. It can really be fun. You can really base your models out and have them really pop and come alive with their paint job plus the jungly base you're giving them, as well as adding extra bits and stuff to your vehicles, maybe some camo netting or something over it to have it blend in the forest better, or having adding something to the models, maybe some green stuff, green stuffing some type of rope or whatever around them, because you're just adding more of a life to the model's appearance to give it more of a narrative. This is a good case for that. You can always do that with pretty much anything you collect, but being that these are jungle fighters from a death world, a real thick, heavy jungle death world, and that's what they tend to fight in thick, heavy jungle death world type stuff, you can really have a lot of fun in adding to the model with bits and scratch build stuff and adding to their bases and have it feel really thematic. Anyways, a cool force. It's, again, I don't know if I said this, but they do a lot of guerrilla warfare. They do a lot of trappings. They do sniper fire. They do have heavy weapon support. They also are more close quarters combat support as well. They are buff, and they use it to their advantage. You could say, lore-wise, to get into close combat and knife a dude. So if you just keep all that in mind and build towards it, you can have a very cool, appropriately themed Catachan force. And they're very capable. It's not like you're building something to be at a disadvantage, right? They're going to be very capable for you as long as you understand that you're playing standard humans. You're not playing Space Marines outside of power armor. That's not what you're playing, right? So remember, standard humans, charging berserkers would be bad. But nevertheless, they do fight against Tyranids and Oryx. They are instrumental in helping out in those areas to further suppress the enemy and help achieve victory for the Imperium. So they are an important force, not just those weird meathead throwaways, right? I mean, they're still Astra Militarum and therefore expendable, but they are very capable. So, interesting force, really cool basing potential, really cool camouflage potential, and just kit bashing potential there as well. So have some fun with them. That's my recommendation. They have cool bits. Make use and have fun. Anyways, lastly, with all the flesh tone, whatever fatigue color you choose, you really want to make sure it's going to be instantly noticeable as not being flesh, right? So you don't want to have, if you're doing tan skin, you don't want to have tan-ish fatigues on. You don't want it to blend in that way. You want it to be distinctly different. It just helps for model poppage or whatnot. Yes, that could technically happen in real life, and you wouldn't notice in real life. But being that these are models at this scale, whatever you do, you want them to be in contrast to each other right off the bat, so it doesn't look like you painted it weird, if that makes any sense. Anyways, that's it. Thanks very much for sticking through it. What are your thoughts on the Catachan Jungle Fighters? They have a long history of being popular with players. They have a nice fan base and everything. So, always cool to see people's thoughts on these guys. I like to see more models for them, to be honest. I think GW should kind of do more with them because they are pretty different from your standard Astra Militarum style of force. So it would be cool to see more done with them personally. Anyways, that's it on the Catachans. Thanks very much for sticking through it. Leave any other question, comments, or requests in the comment section. And until next time, take it easy.